bacon, apple, and cheese. How could you go wrong? Paper thin pieces of potato. So I'm gonna take my apple, not even gonna know what's a potato and what's an apple, and that's the key. It's time to dig in. There's a lot of chatter out there on Google about scalloped potatoes, believe it or not. It's that baked, thinly sliced potato side dish that's creamy in the middle and crispy on the outside. But some people say, in order to call it scalloped potatoes, you can't put cheese in it. You have to call it an au gratin if you put cheese in your scalloped potatoes. But regardless, who cares? Because I love scalloped potatoes, or potatoes au gratin, or whatever you want to call it. And I especially love this recipe because I add thinly sliced apples and a little bit of smoky bacon, and it just takes scalloped potatoes to a whole nother level. Let me tell you something. So let's get started. It all starts with russet potatoes. You want to use the classic russet potato, what you do for baked potatoes. For your scalloped potatoes, they're the best. They stand up when you bake them. So I just peeled them, and what you want to do is you want to thinly slice them. I recommend using a mandolin. So if you have one, again, I'm always using my mandolin. It is worth the investment. It creates these paper thin pieces of potato. You really can't achieve it with a knife. I mean, it's gonna take you a long time, but you can try. Can we just make potato chips? I mean, you see these potatoes? How nice and thin? We're gonna do the same thing with apples. It's gonna be amazing. Trust me. So I'm gonna take my apple and I'm just gonna cut it into quarters, just like this. And then I'm gonna do the same thing on my mandolin. I'm gonna turn it so you're gonna get nice little slices, just like this. And I don't even know if I can use my guard yet. You're just gonna do thin little slices of apple, just like this. And it's gonna blend in so nicely when we're making our scalloped potatoes. You're not even gonna know what's a potato and what's an apple, and that's the key. It's time to shine. So I have an 8.5-inch omelet pan that's non-stick. You really need to use a non-stick pan for this recipe, or else you're gonna have the potatoes stick to the insides. And 8.5-inch is just a general guideline. You can use a pan that's slightly bigger or slightly smaller, but I like the size for 4 people. So I'm gonna take my potatoes and I'm going to start on the outside, just like this. And I'm basically just going to stick the potatoes to the pan, just like this. I didn't add any oil or anything, but the potatoes have a nice liquid to them, a little bit of just natural liquid, and it's gonna stick right to the pan. Once you've made it all the way around the pan, then it's time for your apples. Now, I like to add apples every 3rd piece of potato. So I'm gonna count 1, 2, 3, and then I'm gonna stick an apple. 1, 2, 3, apple, 1, 2, 3, apple, 1, 2, 3, apple. It doesn't have to be perfect, but that's my general guideline. I like just a little pop of apple, but I don't like it to be really overpowering. So I'm gonna continue this process. It's gonna take a little time and effort, but it's gonna turn out to be so beautiful afterwards. So hang in there with me. But I'm just gonna continue on layering my potatoes, and then every 3rd potato, I'm going to place an apple. Insider tip, just make sure that your potatoes are overlapping just a little bit, just so the pie stays all together. And also make sure that you're putting your apples in different places, not on top of each other, or else you're gonna get a big bite of apple. This needs to be a staple at your Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate dinner. It is so beautiful. So it's time for the fun part, which is whisking together the cream and the cheese, the best part. So I have some heavy cream here that I'm just gonna add to a bowl. I have some Gruyère cheese. You can also use like a Jarlsberg or Emmentaler, which is a Swiss cheese that's very, very nutty and stringy and amazing, but a little bit cheaper than a Gruyère. I'm just gonna add that right in. And then some ground nutmeg. This is just such an amazing ingredient in this dish. It really plays off well with the potatoes and the cheese and the cream. Oh, it adds that little like kind of French element and warmness. I'm gonna add just a pinch of salt here because we're going to be adding in bacon later on that's very, very salty. And I like to add quite a lot of black pepper. So you may need to take a little recess while I finish this. And then I'm going to mix all these ingredients together into a nice little slurry. And then I'm going to pour and drizzle this guy all over my scalloped potatoes. I'm just evenly spreading out that cheese. We are going to be adding more cheese and bacon halfway through the cooking process, along with some shallots so they get nice and crispy. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but I like to try my best. But really, you just want to make sure that that cream is evenly dispersed throughout the entire thing. It's time to bake this beautiful scalloped potato pan. So I preheated my oven to 350 degrees. You want to place this in the oven for 25 minutes, and then we're going to add our bacon, our shallots, I almost forgot what they're called, and that will just make everything even better. See you in 25. Taking this guy out, we're halfway through the cooking process, and it's time to add bacon, cheese, and shallots. So cheese first. And bacon. Can't go wrong with the bacon. And then finally, I have some shallot rings. I just cut up shallots into little rings, and I'm gonna pop them on the top. They're gonna get nice and crispy, just the way they're supposed to be. So I'm gonna go ahead, pop this back in the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes until it's nice and golden brown. Yes, ma'am. It's time to dig in. It may look messy, but honestly, that's what makes it good. Absolutely ridiculous. The potatoes are still slightly al dente, not super mushy. The bacon is smoky. It's cheesy, creamy. The touch of sweetness from the apple. How could you ask for more? Check this out on tastefullygrace.com. You will not regret it. Because I love scalloped potatoes, or scallops au gratin, scallops. They're on good old Google about scalloped.